But let's talk about the first video and the planes. The planes on the plane. So explain the runways and all of that like you did in your video, in case there's somebody who hasn't watched it yet.
Okay, well, in the problem, I based it off of a flight I actually took in college. We were able to get a direct flight from. I went to school at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, and in one of my senior projects, we actually did very well in a competition and got to fly to LA to compete nationally, and we found a direct flight to LAX, and so that was a good amount of distance, and it was. I mean, the two airports are roughly on the same latitude compared to the whole size of the Earth. So I decided to set up a problem where the plane flies, the return flight flies from an airport at LAX directly towards an airport at Jacksonville International Airport. And it's hypothetical. In the problem, we assume that the two airports are on the same latitude, so the plane never really has to turn north or south during the flight. It just flies due east. And we also assume in the problem, I wish I would have reiterated this more when I was talking about it, is that we are a stationary observer looking at the Earth. So we can see the Earth and the plane rotating together at the same time. So you do have to account for both velocities. And when you actually calculate the velocity of the Earth at what it would have to be at the equator, if the circumference is just under 25,000 miles, I think it's 24,901 miles is what is the accepted mainstream belief. And there's 24 hours in a day. You just divide, the circumference 24,901 by 24 hours, and that gives you over 1,000 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast. And so if you can figure out what the velocity would be of the airports a certain distance from the equator by using the curvature equation to reduce your diameter and then go from there. So the idea is the Earth is always spinning under the plane, but the plane has the initial velocity of the Earth when it takes off, so the speeds are added. But the problem comes into play when the plane tries to turn and land on the runway that's moving, because the plane has gained so much velocity in the air that now when it turns, it can't stop flying. So the way relative motion works, it still has a component of velocity to the east. So it ends up moving faster than the runway it's trying to land on, and that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we see planes take off and land in all different on runways in all different directions, north, south, east, west, whatever. And then the other major problem I realized is that at 2,000 miles, the curvature, I think it was around 100, the amount of curvature that the plane would have to fly over, I think is about 150 miles of vertical curvature. And so, plane flies, when they take off, they get up to a cruising altitude of about 5 miles or 30,000 feet, 33,000 feet. And, the plane takes off and it's 5 miles in the air, and now it still has 145 miles of curvature it has to fly over. So how is it going to fly over that curvature unless the pilot is constantly nosing the plane down the whole time? And some people say gravity, and I presented my argument to that of why that would actually cause a problem in reverse. And so it's a head scratcher when you really think about it.
Some people, as well as gravity, they say, well, it's built into the autopilot feature. So, I mean, what about people who fly older planes? And there's people that do have older planes out there that don't have that built in. So I say no to that. Yeah. So continue on with your story.
That's in a nutshell. That's the problem. I couldn't find an answer. I was asking people, and of course, people thought I was crazy for even asking this. But I'm saying, well, we don't have an answer. I can't figure this out. And people say it just does. Planes take off and land every day, and I say yes, but that doesn't prove that the Earth is spinning. So I did the problem over and over again. I showed it to a lot of people, engineers, people with science backgrounds, and nobody could really give me a good answer. And so that is when I decided I've got to put this out there and see what people say. And for the most part, a lot of people agreed with me, it seems like. Like I said, I'm always ready to be proven wrong. I said in one of my videos, and in the engineering world, we say, you learn 10 times more from your mistakes than you do from your success. And I believe that. I think it's more like 100 times more. So, people are always afraid to be wrong, but how can you learn what's right if you've never wrong to figure out what is right? So that's the approach I'm kind of taking here. And I'm having trouble proving that flat Earth theory is wrong. So actually, the evidence is showing me that it is actually true. So.